Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet Malhotra. NASA astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore have safely returned to Earth. What seemed to be a quick test certification flight spanning 8 days turned out into a 9-month-long ordeal. The mission unexpectedly extended because the Boeing Starliner spacecraft developed multiple technical faults. However, during their time in space, Williams and Wilmore took 4,577 laps around the Earth while conducting experiments in the International Space Station. In the wee hours yesterday, SpaceX's Dragon capsule performed flawlessly as it executed the descent burn, putting the capsule on a re-entry trajectory into the planet's atmosphere. As it hurled down at a staggering speed, the friction from the thick atmosphere created a plasma wall outside the spacecraft. Inside, the astronauts waited with bated breath for the communication blackout to end as temperatures soared. The drogue parachutes then slowed down the vehicle from thousands of kilometers to a soft splash down speed, gently hitting the waves of the safety of the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Florida. It successfully splashed at 3:27 a.m. Indian Standard Time yesterday, marking the end of a mission that lasted 286 days, almost a year. Now, the rehabilitation and recovery process spanning 45 days will start. Even though a long road to recovery remains, the world is elated with their return. And somebody else who's elated at this return is also joining us to talk more about this. Somebody who's very special in a number of ways. Mallika Sarabhai, a classical dancer, actress, who is also the daughter of Vikram Sarabhai, who was the first chairman of the Indian Space Research Organization. Ma'am, so much was expected out of this mission, and everybody is so glad that these people have returned. And once again, first of all, I'd like to thank you for being here. What were your thoughts when you saw these two coming back to Earth? It obviously was something that we were all waiting with bated breath.
Indeed. I think I can't think of a more nightmarish situation than going for 7 days and being stuck in limbo. So I think both of them kept their spirits up, relearned how to do scientific experiments at the space station, and thankfully they're back.
Ma'am, your father was instrumental in space research and nuclear power in India. How did you feel connected to him when you saw these proceedings?
I feel connected to him mostly when India sends up our rockets. And when the Vikram lander landed on the moon the second time around, of course, was a very special moment. But I think he used to discuss the possibilities of space science, improving the dignity of the last human. So we grew up, my brother and I, listening to these stories of wonder. So there is always a sense of wonder when space science is involved, especially, I think, if it is not to show the machoism that I can do it, which some of the countries do, but much more for what ISRO has been doing, which is to try and see how health and agriculture and such things can be improved, how we can find out more about the moon to reflect upon our understanding of the Earth and so on. But yes, space travel is something that is always marvelous.
Now, what do you remember from your childhood and seeing your father work in this industry, and what were your memories like? As a child, everybody is fond of understanding what chand sitare are made up of. What is it out like there? What do you remember from those days?
Well, he introduced me to a telescope very early, and he was so excited by the sky. Even his basic research was in cosmic ray physics, and just looking up at the sky would excite him tremendously. And our home is called Chidambaram. Chidambaram for my mother was the temple of Shiva where dance is supposed to have been born. But for Papa, it was the sky where Chit or Ambar, where the soul and the spirit reaches for the sky. So it was a name that was common to both of them, him for science and her for the arts. So these were the stories that we were told, and I always, as a child, resented the fact that Papa was away so much. But then he would come and tell us what had happened and how they had done this. And there were these wonderful stories of the first launch and how Jugaad, I think, must have been born there, of how Russian things and French things were all fitted together, and then things wouldn't go up, and it was taken in a bullock cart, and then part of it was taken on a bicycle. These were all told to us when we were very little children. So it was like a being in a magical mystery tour.
Ma'am, you ventured into the arts, but your dad was a man of science. Do you think over the years so much advancements have been made that that thick line between art and science has started to diminish, and science in its own way is a form of art, so to speak?
And art is a form of science. Papa used to always tease my mother and say, you keep saying you hate maths, but what is Tala? It's the most complex rhythm and mathematics that you are doing. You are dividing, you are multiplying, you are factoring in. So Tala is mathematics. And I was always very interested in the science. I loved chemistry, not physics so much, but I loved chemistry. But when I was in college, in our first year of science, I would have had to cut a frog, which is something that I couldn't have done then, I couldn't do now, which is why I didn't take science. But I myself am fascinated by the development of the brain, and I keep up with that. Technology fascinates me. So a lot of dancers get frightened with technology. I am fascinated by technology. So I think the DNA have mixed rather well in my curiosity about the world.
Ma'am, how do you reflect on India's ascent into the space ecosystem? There was a time in the 90s when India was frowned upon, or rather, there were doubts about our prowess when it came to space advancement. But in 2025, India is going places. Your father would have been a very, very proud man. How do you reflect on these paradigm shifts that have happened over the last few decades, owing to a number of people?
Well, a lot of the chiefs of ISRO who came after Papa, and I remember conversations with both Satish Dhawan and Dr. Kasturi Rangan, said that Papa had let out such a complete and vision document for 40 years that they were really following that vision document. I have to say that the commercializing of space that is going on just now is something that I am not happy with, but that is a personal opinion, because I think in today's world, everything gets reduced to trade and commerce and who gets the pie. And I think space research has such incredible possibilities for helping out of some of humanity's worst nightmares. And there are plenty of nightmares around, whether it's climate or whether it's health. I think making a dhanda out of it is, for me, worrisome. I think Papa had the faith that the scientists that would follow him would have the capability, and I don't think he ever doubted that the people who followed would be able to take the mission to where it is today.
Ma'am, last question before we let you go. There has been ample privatization and an effort towards privatization as well when it comes to space age technologies, endeavors related to space. Do you feel that's good, or do you think that's bad? On the flip side, there are people like Bernie Sanders who frown upon the fact that oligarchs should be kept away from big serious projects such as space. Where are you placed on that?
With Bernie Sanders. Because I have not seen altruistic oligarchs.
That's a good point.
Today, the oligarchs of the world trade in weapons and flatten Gaza. That is not what I think space science should be used for. And if the oligarchs of the world take over, that is exactly what it will be used for.
Mallika Sarabhai, thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking to NewsX. Your inputs have been most valuable. Thank you, ma'am, so much.
Nice.
All right, we take a short break now. Be right back.